Hello, welcome to the Free Your Children podcast. I am your host, Tiffany Boyd, and our mission here at Free Your Children is to share the truth and love about education. There's a battle raging for the souls of our nation's children, and we hope this ministry prepares you for battle. Finally, be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. We are so excited here at Free Your Children. We are busy. Our calendar is filling up quickly. We have some very exciting announcements that we're going to be making soon. We have already sent out a newsletter with two of our dates where we will be speaking in the month of May. If you are not subscribed to our newsletter, I highly encourage you to do that for up-to-date current information. So we try to send those out when there are things that we feel like people need to know immediately. So you can do that by going to our website. There's a place there where you can get signed up for our newsletter. You can also send me an email. Please make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. So we're on X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, Substack. I don't think I left any off. We're on all major social media platforms. So look for us there under Free Your Children. We have, again, multiple speaking engagements that are coming up on May the 8th. I will be at Turning Point USA, the Williamson County chapter. I posted some information about that. I will be at the Murray County GOP on May the 22nd. The topics at both of those places, we will be discussing the FREE Act that was filed this last legislative session that our Republican conservative legislators killed. So we will be going into detail about that. We will be bringing that bill back again next legislative session. So we know that people need to know and understand the importance of that particular bill and why we are working so hard to see that come to fruition in the state of Tennessee. If you are interested in a seminar, Free Your Children has been hosting seminars now for close to 2 years. We are traveling all over the United States, bringing this information to people. The whole purpose of doing this is to empower and encourage parents with information they need to better disciple their children and also to better protect their freedoms. So we have a whole plethora of topics that we discuss in these seminars. Please note that they are customized to your area. There's seminar information again over on the website. That's freeyourchildren.com. Check that out. But it's not limited to just those topics, but we are very passionate about what we do. We really feel like we are at a turning point in the nation. This is information and issues that are affecting us nationwide. And so we feel that through education, families will be better prepared to deal with the issues that we're seeing happening. And you can't fight what you don't know. And so we hope that you will consider hosting a seminar. Again, if you would like information about that, you can send us an email at freeyourchildren@gmail.com. We would be happy to answer any questions you may have. If you are interested in sponsoring Free Your Children, we have a sponsorship packet that we would love to send to you. Again, you can send me an email at freeyourchildren@gmail.com, and we would be happy to get that out to you. Please note that the work that we're doing isn't free. And so we are constantly in need of something. And if you feel like the work that we do is valuable, then please consider donating to Free Your Children or sponsoring Free Your Children. And if you're a sponsor, we love to acknowledge you as we're doing all the work that we're doing. And we'll talk about some of our sponsors in just a second. And I'll bring up some websites so that you can take a look at those closely. But again, if you are interested in helping us out, making a donation, there's a donation link over on the website. Again, that's freeyourchildren.com. And if you are interested in becoming a sponsor, we can send that to you as well. Please check the website often as we are currently updating it, as we are adding more speaking engagements. I will be in Pigeon Forge, and there will be more coming about that soon. in June. I will also be in West Tennessee in July. And then we know that we will be in California in October. And again, more information will be coming soon about these dates, but I'm just giving you a little bit of a sneak peek there. So I'm going to do a share screen here so we can talk about some of our sponsors that Free Your Children is blessed to work with. And one of those is the Murfreesboro Pulse. I highly encourage everyone to go to the Pulse, sign up. I am a monthly contributor to the Pulse. They are a wonderful partner with Free Your Children. And again, we thank them for everything that they do and for their support. Also, John Paul Financial Services is another friend to Free Your Children. Let me pull up his website so you can see that as well. Here he is right here. If you have financial needs, please contact John Paul Financial Services at 931-267-3605. He serves Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, and Florida, and has been doing so for more than 30 years. So again, we want to thank our sponsors of Free Your Children. We could not do this without you. And if you are interested in sponsoring Free Your Children, please again send us an email. We will be happy to get a packet to you. I am thrilled to have our guest with us today. I'm going to bring her on. We have Jennifer Barker from Missouri joining us today. Welcome, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you so much, Tiffany, for having me.
It's a pleasure, and I know you're doing great work in Missouri. So if you don't mind, please explain to our viewers who you are and what you do.
Sure. So, Jennifer Ann Barker, I'm director and founder of Informed Health Choice Missouri, and we are a grassroots organization. We empower Missourians with education on informed consent and what that means, knowing the risks, the benefits, and any alternatives to medical treatments, and what mainly being vaccinations. That's our main focus. The reason that I got involved and started this is because I have a vaccine injured child. She was injured at 2 months old by the DTaP vaccination. And once I started diving in and researching more about what the ingredients were, especially once I realized that aborted fetal cells were used in manufacturing and testing of vaccinations, I knew I had to educate other parents to know these things that I had no clue about before her injury. And I'm very happy to say she's recovered most, I would say 99% recovered now, 15 years old. But it's definitely something I couldn't put down. Every day I'm researching and trying to help other Missourians and anyone in being in other states to know the risks.
Yeah. It's amazing. I've heard a lot of stories. I've done previous shows with people who are doing the same thing you're doing, warning about vaccine injuries and, warning, about why this is an issue and what parents need to know. And most of them all have personal experiences with this, unfortunately. And then that makes them fantastic advocates because they're sharing their personal experiences and they're giving others hope too. I am glad that your daughter is doing so well now and she's recovered, but I'm sure it was a journey for you to get there in her recovery process.
Yes, it was. It was. And I'm so thankful for the people that when this happened, I didn't know of anyone that had vaccine injury or that didn't vaccinate in the state of Missouri. So I had people all around the country that I had connected with online. And I'm so thankful for them helping and sharing. And so that's another reason why I started the organization, because we really needed that here in the state of Missouri.
Right. And so how does your organization work? How can people reach you if they want more information about your organization and the work that you're doing?
Sure. You can find us at IHCM, that stands for Informed Health Choice Missouri, at pm.me. And you can also email us at ihcm@pm.me. And we are we welcome everyone that wants to learn, and we love educating.
That's great. And you also do a lot of legislative work, correct?
Yes, we do. So we also have Inform Missouri, which is our legislative arm, and we try to go to the Capitol on a regular basis. We're trying to educate Missourians about the whole process. Like you said, many people do not know who their state representative, their state senator is, and so we just try to educate them on the process and learning as we go too. Still learning.
Right. Yeah, I would highly encourage anyone. I know for a lot of people, it's a daunting task. It overwhelms them, I think, because, most people have not been taught how to navigate the legislative process. And so they are learning as they're trying to be an advocate or speak out or find their voice. So I tell people it's okay to learn as you go through this process. We certainly learn something every single time we go to the legislature, whether we want to or not. It's always a learning process. And so don't be afraid or embarrassed if you have questions. I tell people the only bad question is one that you don't ask.
Right.
So ask if you don't know how to find your legislator. I'm sure that Jennifer and her team would be more than happy to help you navigate that process, give you talking points if you would like to have a conversation with their legislator. Do you find yourself doing that a lot, giving people talking points about particular bills, or helping them to initiate a conversation with their elected officials?
Yes, absolutely. Like, we do a lot of action alerts, and we don't want them to be copy and paste. We want our members to want it to come from the heart. How does
Yep.
this legislation possibly affect you? And share with your legislators why that's a problem or
Yeah.
why it's good. Rarely do we ever have legislation that we are supporting because there isn't much here. You would think that we would have the support here, but we're fighting a lot of bad legislation in the state of Missouri right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Tennessee is the same. And I've been watching some things that are happening across the nation. And I'm going to pull some of those things up in just a second so that I can give a warning, I guess you could say, to the followers of Free Your Children, and some things that they need to be watching, from a nationwide standpoint as well. But I actually found you, and I agree. Before I get to that, I want to say this. I agree with you. I do not like the copy and paste responses to legislators, because I think that when they're reading those, if they see that, they're a lot less inclined to listen, because they do feel like it's just a canned response. And I have even had legislators tell me, because some organizations have the click, where you can just go in on their website and, click a standard form, and it's a contact form that sends a copy and paste essentially response to legislators about a particular piece of legislation. And I have had legislators tell me that they just delete all those. They don't even read them. When it's an automated thing like that, they don't even bother paying any attention to it. So I always encourage people, when Free Your Children is sounding an alarm in our state of Tennessee, because just like Missouri, we're always fighting bad legislation and tons of it, to personalize it. And I also tell people, and I'm sure Missouri is like this too, not everyone lives within a distance where they can come to the legislature regularly. They live too far away. They may be on one end of the state, and it may be 6 hours, for them one way, for them to be able to attend a committee meeting at the legislature. So I tell them, but you do have representatives in your district. So reach out to them and schedule a meeting with them locally at a coffee shop or a restaurant, or, wherever works best for you, so that you can start, building a relationship with these legislators. And if they don't want to meet with you, then a legislator that is not available probably isn't a legislator that needs to be elected, because their whole job is to serve us. And I think politically, many of our elected officials have forgotten that. It's not them being put in a position to tell the people what to do. It is, they're supposed to be there representing, constituents. And I've heard legislators say, or their legislative assistants ask the question, do you live in their district? Because if you don't live in their district, they don't want to have a conversation with you. And my retort to that is, do they only accept campaign funds from individuals that live in their district? Because if they're, and we all know that most of the time, the majority of their campaign funding doesn't come from within their district. And
Right.
so I think that people need to know this so that they can really hold legislators accountable, because a legislator that is not available is a problem. So again, if you live in Missouri and Jennifer's organization says this is a bill that you need to be concerned about, and they issue a call to action and need you to take action, and you need help navigating that process, Jennifer would be happy, and her team would be happy to help you do that. Now, I found you, Jennifer, because I was looking on social media and I saw where you had posted some calls to action, and they really caught my eye. And one particularly, and I'm going to pull it up and look at it on my phone as I'm talking with you about this, but it was SB 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so specifically, and I'm going to let you talk about it, but anytime I see things that say administer treatment without consent to treat, that's a huge red flag. Anytime I see something that gives teachers or anyone responsible for a minor child consent for treatment in case of an emergency, that is a big concern. I mean, it's all a concern, but in the capacity that we function with Free Your Children, from an educational standpoint, a parental standpoint, a constitutional standpoint, that particular post that you made caught my eye. So what I'd like for you to do is explain which pieces of legislation right now are concerning in Missouri and why.
Absolutely. So SB 7 is our main focus right now. And the reason it is because yesterday it went to the floor in the House. And so in the state of Missouri, they truly like to make these omnibus bills, these bills that are a bunch of bills, small bills, gathered together. We like to call them Christmas tree bills because they attract all of these shiny ornaments. Once somebody sees this bill is making it further through the process, then all of these ornaments get tacked onto the tree, all of these amendments. And so SB 7 is one of those attractive Christmas tree bills. It has morphed from 9 pages to 91 pages.
Wow.
So I was just, before I got on this podcast with you, I was trying to catch myself up with what happened yesterday. And it looks like currently there are 24 subjects in this bill. Now, in the state of Missouri, in our Missouri Constitution, Article 3, Section 23 states that no bill shall contain more than one subject which shall be clearly expressed in its title. And so they'll do a title change. This had started off as an emergency medical services bill, and now it's just relating to healthcare. So that's opened this bill up and allowed these 24 different subjects, which is unconstitutional. And that's what we really want our constituents to understand. First of all, this bill shouldn't even be considered because of that. If your legislators that you elected, and I'll go back to what you were saying earlier, Tiffany, about meeting with them in coffee shops. I like to tell people, these are your neighbors.
Yes.
Your representative may not be your next door neighbor, but they live right around the corner.
Right.
So you can meet with them in your district, but you need to get to know them. And then when something like this happens and they vote for something like this, or they carry something like this,
Yes.
you need to make sure that they understand that you're not good with that. This is unconstitutional, and they need to stick to the Constitution. SB 7 is extremely dangerous because of these mandates. We have never had this kind of legislation that would mandate a medical procedure in our statutes. So what makes legislators think that they can tell doctors how to treat their patients? And that's basically what they're doing with SB 7. They, what it is a bill that for testing of pregnant women, this is a portion of the bill, testing of pregnant women or postpartum women in Missouri, including minors, for syphilis, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV. And so they can consent to the testing, but then the legislation says that they shall treat. The word shall is a mandate. If it said may treat, it's not a mandate. So that's the very concerning portion of this, that once a pregnant woman consents to the testing, would she realize that then her doctor's mandated to treat this? And how will what is the treatment and how will the treatment be carried out? This also, if tested positive, providers are required to administer treatment to minors without the consent of parents, which is another problem. So when I started doing a little research and trying to figure out, because like you said earlier, these things like this typically aren't just our state. There's something that's going out, whether it's a think tank that's putting this legislation out. These legislators are gathering this from somewhere other than the state of Missouri. So I started digging in to find out, where is this coming from? Well, it pops up with the WHO, the World Health
Of course. Yeah.
So they have a global initiative to eliminate congenital syphilis in association with the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and viral hepatitis B. So then I went onto their site and found, you probably won't be able to see this, but their plan to eliminate by 2030 sexually transmitted infections.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because I have written extensively and have hosted multiple radio shows and podcasts about the influence that the World Health Organization, the WHO, is having on health and also on education. And now they have medicalized schools. I've written extensively about the community school model, which our state of Tennessee has fully adopted, where they're wanting to put, basically the school will have host all the needs of the children, from medical clinics to dental clinics to everything. So the child, every single need that a child would have could be met at school, from food to clothing to medical care to dental care to mental health care, everything. And again, our state is fully invested in this. The WHO, the World Health Organization, is fully invested in that, because it is the globalization that they're hoping to achieve, because that is the agenda. And this is a problem, because if they're going to have the ability to be able to treat without parental consent, what they're doing is they're usurping not only constitutional rights but parental rights, and they are removing the parents from the equation. And so this is a very, very slippery slope. So when it's interesting to me that you dug in and found that, and if you look, you can always find the connection. They're not hiding these agendas are right there in black and white. It probably didn't take you very long to be able to access that information and to see, what their plan is.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people think that they're legislators, and some legislators are writing their own legislation. They do have a constituent that has an issue, and so they write this legislation. But then in the state of Missouri, it goes down into the basement where the researchers are. They rewrite it, they change it the way that they like it, and it comes back up to the legislator. And I've met with legislators before and pointed out bothersome language in the bill, and they will say, well, I didn't see that. I didn't know that was in there.
Yep.
And it's a big surprise to them. So that's a problem. That's why I like to tell legislators, bills should be like 1 to 2 pages long. We need to, unless we are repealing legislation, we have to refer to current statute in there to be. But with the changes that are happening, should not be very long. There should be short changes. And I'm for repealing law rather than adding to it. We have plenty of laws in the books. We need to repeal and boil it back down to the basics.
Right. Because they're legislating everything anymore. And we're seeing this in Tennessee. Omnibus bills are very, very common in Tennessee. We had an omnibus special session over the summer in an attempt which they were successful in passing school choice, but they actually attached it to disaster relief in East Tennessee for the victims of the flooding there. So, and we have caption bills that are filed where the caption does not even remotely describe what the contents of the bill actually is. And,
Mhm.
some of those bills are hundreds of pages long. And when you multiply that by the potentially thousands of bills that are filed during a legislative session, there's no way that the legislators have time to read and go through every single bill with a fine tooth comb. And again, you spoke about the writing of the bills. I don't know if everyone knows or understands that lobbyists also write bills that
Mhm.
they present. To they what they do is they come to the Capitol and they lobby legislators to carry a bill, that they have written or that the organization that they're working for has written. And so, not oftentimes these bills are not in the best interest of the constituents or the state in which you live. So it is a massive job to track all of the bills that come
Mhm.
through a legislature during a general assembly, when it's up and running. And so I'm thankful for organizations like yours who have their wheelhouse, and then they watch these pieces of legislation and then sound the alarm for people to get involved. So where is this bill in the process right now?
Well, yesterday it was third read and passed in the House. So it had 13 amendments that were attached to it on the House
Wow.
floor. So now it will go, the Senate will have to respond and it'll go to a conference committee. So because of for anyone that doesn't understand how it works, the House bill must mirror the Senate bill before they go to the governor's desk to be signed into law. So now that it's been changed on the House floor, it also gives it a better chance of dying too.
Hmm.
So hopefully those amendments that have been added, the Senate will not agree with, and the bill may die. I kind of doubt that it will, but we're in hopes for that.
Right, absolutely. And so people need to contact their legislators and tell them to vote no on, is it SB 7?
It's SB 7, yes.
Okay.
So we need to ask our governor, Governor Kehoe, that we do not want this legislation passed. If it is passed here, that he would veto this legislation when it gets to his desk.
Right. I also saw something else that concerned me when I was looking at the information about bills in Missouri, and I sent this to you, and I'm looking at it right now. This was a letter that was sent out, and it says it was addressed to junior parents. So juniors, I guess, in this particular county, and it was about Cape County Health Department outlining immunization requirements for students. So this was going to be a vaccination clinic. I'm assuming that they were going to be offering students in this particular school district. I want to talk about that. We're seeing this in Tennessee, and I know other states are seeing it as well. Sometimes that they're partnering with local health departments across the United States. And the
Right.
problem with this is the local health departments are very they support or follow a lot of or I would say all of the CDC recommendations.
Right.
And we know what that looked like, with COVID. And so that's a big concern to me because I am seeing school systems have these pop up flu vaccination clinics and vaccination clinics like this one right here. So, can you explain to parents kind of what this is and what the concerns are with what we're seeing?
Sure. So what we've seen in the past is that they'll bring the health clinic in to do a flu clinic, like a flu vaccine clinic,
Hmm.
and you may have not even realized that you signed consent for your child to get a vaccination at school. That may have been slipped in something that you didn't even realize exactly what you were signing off on
Hmm.
when school started, or some of these schools have in school clinics where you can set up appointments for children to get a doctor's visit while they're at school, and you may not realize what you have consented to. So I tell parents, you have to be very cautious. Make sure that anything that you are signing, you are fully reading and that you agree to what you are signing before you do, and submit
Right.
that to the school. Because we have heard of children being vaccinated without the parents realizing that they had given consent for something like that. We've also heard of where there are errors, where a child's pulled out of class that was not signed up for the clinic, and even where they were trying to get a hold of their parents and were not allowed to communicate with the parent before they were to get it, before they got a vaccination. So these clinics are really concerning. I know I was just watching something about, I want to say it was in Kentucky, where a parent was fighting. There was a dentist in school dentist that,
Yes, yeah. They're partnering with that as well. And again, it's part of the whole school, whole child model that they're passing in these community schools, and that would be one of the services that they're now offering um, to the students, which is bringing dental professionals in to do work.
right. And this child, or several children, had seen the dentist at school. They wanted the children to get surgery, that they needed to put the child under anesthesia for surgery. They would not give any of this information to the parents of what exactly was wrong, without them signing consent. Well, the parent didn't want to sign consent for any of this, took them to their own dentist outside of the school. That dentist says everything is fine, nothing needs to be done. So then the parent goes back to the school and says, our dentist says everything is fine. Well, now they're wanting to get child services involved because this parent looks like they're
Refuse.
neglecting, they're
Yes.
refusing service.
Yes.
So this is definitely something that is a huge concern, and parents really need to be aware that this is happening. What a lot of parents don't even know if they have an in-house, in-school clinic or not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
And you're exactly right. And I know in the state of Georgia, master level school counselors have the ability to diagnose and treat.
mm,
And so this is what we're moving toward. And so you're right. Oftentimes, parents are busy. They're given a stack of papers and they just go through, the child may come home and say, I have to have your signature on all of these forms to turn, into school tomorrow. And the parents are just going through the stack of papers and signing it, or they may be doing it digitally, and they're not really taking the time to read it. And they may have inadvertently given permission for something that, had they known what they were signing, they would not be on board with. So that's a major concern, because when you're talking about invasive procedures, which I believe that anything is invasive if the parent doesn't know that it's happening to their child, no matter how insignificant it may seem. And then the problem arises if a doctor or a counselor or a school nurse or someone that has been deemed as a medical professional at that school makes a recommendation, or like you said, if it says shall, they have the ability to treat these kids, and then the parent says, I'm not okay with that, I don't agree with this avenue of treatment, then they can say, well, that's neglect, you are refusing medical treatment. And then you get into the juvenile court system, the Department of, I don't know what it's called in Missouri, Department of Children's Services here in Tennessee. In different states they're called different things, but they all do the same thing.
right.
And so then they can step in. You run the risk of being taken to court, your child adjudicated to the state, removed from your custody. And then they enter a system that's going to be making all of the decisions for them. And the parent has no voice. They can lose the ability to make decisions for their child, but you can also lose physical custody of your child.
You absolutely can.
And
Yeah.
this is happening all across the United States. And we're not saying this to scare you. We're saying this to empower you with information so you can better protect your families. So I'm sure, do you have people say to you that you're fear mongering, and that the truth tellers always typically are we get the backlash of this, but what we're trying to do is sound the alarm and empower parents with the information that they need. What do you say to that, Jennifer?
Absolutely agree with that. That everyone should be informed
Mm-hmm.
and know exactly what their options are. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
parents, a lot of people, when it comes to medical procedures, they don't realize they have options. They don't
Right.
realize they can say no,
Mm-hmm.
that you have control over your body. And as a parent, we have control over our children. They are not the state's
Correct.
responsibility, they are our
Yes.
responsibility.
Absolutely. And I think, um, do you think a good starting point for many of these parents, if they're sending their children to government schools, is to know if there are medical clinics within the school and do some research on what type of medical, I want to say, interventions that they are bringing to the table, for the kids that are there? Do you have a dentist that's coming and visiting the school and providing dental, checking the kids' teeth or putting the sealant? That's what I was trying to think of. The sealant, that they offer that in some schools where they will come in and offer those programs. So I think that may be a good starting point for parents, is to check to see, who the school is partnering with from a medical standpoint. I know in our state, we have a huge push with youth villages, and I've shared about why that is concerning. They have a lobbyist. This is a company that is deeply involved with the Department of Children's Services. And so we've heard lots of horror stories about parents who find themselves in situations with the juvenile justice system, with truancy and youth villages. And now everything in schools, it's all medicalized. So every child in a public school is considered at risk. And so they are moving at breakneck speed to diagnose as many children as possible with as many things as possible, because they're incentivized
Mhm.
to do that. In our state, each child that goes to public school is worth a certain amount of money to the state if they are there in those seats. But then we have a weighted formula, which means for every disability they are diagnosed with, then there is an additional amount of money attached to those diagnoses. So it is in the best interest of the state to have children who are diagnosed with as many things as possible, because the state is getting more money based on this weighted formula. Do you feel like the same thing can be said for Missouri?
I do, yeah. And also, mental health is a huge focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so there are things that you may not even realize your children are taking surveys while they are at school.
Mm-hmm.
And if that triggers that there may be they believe, a mental
Yes.
issue, or that there may be things in the home that could be harmful,
Mm-hmm.
they want to step in and take over.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that in Tennessee. We're seeing that across the nation. I have written extensively. This is one of the many topics that I cover in my seminars. And the National Governors Association has issued a playbook that solely focuses on mental health. And they go through, and I go through this in a portion of my seminar, and it explains how they are utilizing this playbook to identify as many children as possible with mental health issues. And this doesn't just stop at public school kids.
Mhm.
They are training community partners to be able to identify children who would potentially be at risk for a mental health issue. They are even offering clinics in our state to train just random people within the community that could have access to children, to be able to identify these children as at risk. So that means if your child plays sports, if that they're training faith leaders, so within a church environment, um, any extracurricular activities. So that's something that parents need to be aware of. And again, if they earmark your child or flag your child as potentially being at risk, and then they try to intervene and you as the parent aren't okay with that, then you're in the crosshairs, because that will be seen as a parent who's trying to stand in the way of their child getting what they deem as the appropriate treatment or healthcare services.
Exactly.
Do you have parents that contact your organization that are already finding themselves in these situations, Jennifer? Like maybe they've denied, they're not okay with a recommendation that someone in the school has made regarding their child's health?
We don't really see a lot of that right now. Like I said, with the flu clinic, there were
Mhm.
some where a child was vaccinated against the parents' knowledge. But other than that, we really don't hear very much. We help a lot with exemptions, and that's a huge thing that battling the school of accepting the exemptions. So
Okay.
or letting the parents know that they have the right to an exemption.
Mhm.
Most parents don't even realize they can exempt their child from vaccinations, some of them or all of them, to go to
Right.
school. So we spend a lot of time helping parents with that. And a
So,
lot of complaints come in regards to that.
okay. And you can help them navigate that process to make sure that their rights are recognized within the school system.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So if you have questions about that, make sure that you reach out to Jennifer, and she and her organization will be happy to help you navigate that process. Are there any other bills that parents in Missouri right now should be concerned about?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there are thousands of bills that go through
Mhm.
the Senate
Mhm.
and the House. And so right now we have 3 weeks left in session. The
Mhm.
last 2 weeks is typically where everything happens rapid fire. There's just
Mhm.
bullets being shot everywhere, with like amendments being shot onto bills.
Right.
And so these bills morph, and it's really hard to try and know what is going to be that Christmas tree bill that's going to
Mhm.
attract all of the ornaments. So we have our eye on multiple. Some other big legislation that's concerning is this immunity for liability for chemical companies.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
for glyphosate, which is
Mhm.
Roundup, uh,
Yep.
they want to give immunity to liability to these huge chemical companies. So
Mhm.
if you develop cancer from,
Mhm.
which there are many people that have developed cancer from glyphosate, you
Yes.
would have no recourse for that.
Right.
So that's another piece of legislation. It passed the House. That's HB 544. The Senate bill, we haven't seen a whole lot of movement on that. But we do have, I think there's 9 senators that have told us they will stand against that legislation and won't let it pass. So we
That's
hope
good.
that they will stick to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're seeing similar things happening in Tennessee as well. So again, I tell people all the time, one of the reasons why we are so passionate about the work we do with Free Your Children is because this is not just happening within the boundaries of your state. These are nationwide issues that are affecting multiple states across the United States. And so we're trying to sound the alarm and encourage people to get educated about what's happening here, and then issuing just a call to action at large to not be reactive but to be proactive. Start building those relationships with your legislators. Start having conversations with them about what you expect them to do as your elected representative. And I think that we really have to work on shifting the culture and the narrative that has been created, that they are up there and should feel privileged to be able to have an opportunity to speak to them. They work for us. And so if you have a legislator that isn't willing to take your calls or to meet with you or to have dialogue, that's a problem. And it needs to be made public, because they are not there to represent the chemical industry. They are not there to represent the pharmaceutical industry. They are supposed to be there to represent their constituents. And so I think that we need to remind them of that, and we need to hold their feet to the fire, so to speak, regarding bills that they sponsor, how they vote, and if they really are protecting the best interest of their constituents. So I encourage everyone to get involved. I hear people all the time, and you may hear this as well, Jennifer, so I'm going to let you talk about this for a second, but I hear people say all the time, I don't get involved in politics.
Mhm.
Do you hear that?
We do hear that all the time. And I really truly believe that our government was set up as we, the people, we are supposed to be part of the process.
Mhm.
And when we don't participate, your voice is silenced.
Yes,
And these representatives, they're voted in to represent our voice. And when
absolutely.
this is another problem. I don't know in Tennessee if you deal with this, but in the state of Missouri, they relinquish their power to leadership.
Mhm.
So the leadership really controls what happens there. So our voice is not heard because our
Right.
representative has, with the House rules or the Senate rules, handed over the keys
Yep.
to the gatekeeper. And
Yes, I'm laughing. It's really not funny, but it's ironic. So I'm laughing at the irony because these are conversations that we have regularly. We will say they're carrying the governor's water because our governor has been doing and passing and advocating for pieces of legislation that are not in the best interest of the state of Tennessee, the residents of the state of Tennessee. They've made their voices clear, but amazingly, they keep passing legislation that the majority of the Tennessee residents vehemently claim that they are against. And so we're seeing exactly the same culture and climate here in Tennessee. And I agree with you. It's part of our civic duty to be active. And it doesn't matter if you're interested in politics or not. Politics is interested in you. And these are the people that are passing legislation. And making laws that you're going to have to abide by, that are going to affect your life. So there's no way for you not to be involved in politics. We're all involved in politics. We're the victims,
that's right.
for lack of a better term. We're the victims of politics. So I would encourage you to not just complain about it, but to get involved in some way, however that may look for you. And again, if you don't live close enough to physically show up to your state legislature, you do live close enough to a representative to call them up on the phone and have a meeting with them. Either some of them have offices locally, within their district, but if they don't have an office, you can find a meeting spot that they should be willing to come to and have a sit down conversation with you. And you don't have to do it by yourself. You can get some other people in your community to go with you if you feel like that's too daunting. You can call them on the phone. You can have a phone conversation with them. But creating dialogue and building relationships or attempting to build relationships with them is very important. How receptive are your legislators in Missouri? We have some legislators in Tennessee that are not receptive at all. They won't even meet with us.
We do see a lot of that in our big, especially in the big areas, St.
Hmm.
Louis and Kansas City. They
Hmm.
just tend to be elusive.
Hmm.
But we have some amazing legislators too. There,
Uh-huh.
there are not very many that will
Right.
actually sit down and listen and then proceed
Yes,
with talk.
absolutely. We
Uh,
we have some fantastic ones that are willing to work with us, and then we have some that we certainly have not agreed with some of the ways that they have voted. However, they have still opened their offices to us and allowed us to come in and
mhm.
at least have dialogue and conversation. I think for us personally, it's the ones that will not return phone calls, will not schedule meetings, will not aren't even willing to hear what their constituents have to say about certain bills or issues. And again, I will remind them and the people who may be listening to this, we are their employers. And
Right.
they have forgotten that. So I would say don't give up. Keep the pressure up. Keep attempting to make contact with them, to try to schedule meetings, keep calling. One thing that we have found is perseverance really pays off.
Right.
And at some point you're going to wear them down, or you're going to bring enough attention to the fact that they refuse to meet with you, and then that becomes an even bigger problem, because then it becomes apparent in the court of public opinion that clearly they must not be willing to serve the best interest of their constituents if they won't have a conversation with them.
Right.
So I say don't give up. So when you go, do you go as a group to the legislature? Can people go with you to the legislature?
Absolutely.
Okay. And
Yeah,
so they can just send you an email.
they sure can. Yeah,
Okay.
they sure can. And we enjoy meeting people there, or we can carpool together from different parts of the state. We're always happy to have people come and learn
Well,
and learn
that's
with us.
wonderful. Yes, that's wonderful that you're doing all of this work in Missouri to empower parents and help them protect their children. Tell our listeners again where they can find you.
Sure. So our website, and earlier when I was telling you the website, I gave you the email address.
That's
The
okay.
website, it's ihcm.info. It's not
Okay.
a .com, it's .info. So it's IHCM, which stands for Informed Health Choice Missouri.info, INFO. That's our website.
Okay, and I'll make sure when we post this interview that I drop your website information and your email information in the description so people can find you.
Sure.
This interview will also go out on our Substack. It will also go out in our newsletter, and then we'll be posting it on our different social media platforms so people can find you as well. I'm honored to be able to have the ability to interview you today, Jennifer. I think it's phenomenal work that you and your team are doing there in Missouri. We need one of these in every single state. And I just encourage you, if you have not connected with Jennifer and you live in Missouri, to do that. Please watch the information that she puts out regarding legislation that you need to be concerned about, and heed her calls to action, because she's working hard to keep families and children safe in the state of Missouri. Jennifer, thank you so much for being willing to come on. Is there anything else we didn't cover that you want people to know?
Oh, I think we covered a lot. Yeah, thank you so much, Tiffany. I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. God bless you and all your efforts.
Well, thank you so much. It is wonderful to have you on. Before I drop you off, because you may see something here that you want to weigh in on, I'm going to do a share screen, and we're going to talk about some things that are happening currently across the United States. So this is our Facebook page over on Free Your Children. So Connecticut has issued a call to action. So if you live in Connecticut, this is a call to action for homeschool freedom. So, what's happening in Connecticut is that the legislature's education and children's committees have planned an informational session to discuss homeschooling regulation. So, this is something that you need to be aware of. We have the information over on our social media pages. So, this is a definite call to action for homeschoolers in Connecticut. Now's the time to take action. So there's information there explaining to you what you need to do. Also, again, I live in Tennessee. So there was recently a Metro teacher that was accused of tying a child to a chair. This particular teacher is a former Department of Children's Services caseworker and a trans youth advocate. You can see that information here. There was a news article that was posted by WSMV. What they're saying is that the Nashville teacher is currently on leave over this allegation, and the child was a first grader. There's also another legislative alert impacting your right to homeschool coming from the Minnesota Association of Christian Home Educators. There is an update there. So make sure if you live in that state, again, that's Minnesota, that you're aware of what's going on and you take action as needed. Then this one is a big one. I reported on this. This is an educator. He was, at one point in time, this individual was actually an administrator. He was demoted from administrative duties and put in a first grade classroom as a first grade teacher. So this gentleman was then tried and convicted of a multitude of horrible offenses, crimes against children, from incest to, I believe, you can read it for yourself. I'm not going to go into detail, but he is on the run. and they have still not been able to locate him. So if you see this individual, his name is Jonathan Ulrich. I'm certain he's not using that name as he's on the run. But if you see this individual, please contact authorities. Free Your Children started sharing information about this man and what he had done when he was first arrested, when it was still alleged. And then we followed that through his subsequent conviction. And then he ran. And so he is on the run. So if you see this individual, you need to contact the appropriate authorities. So again, Free Your Children is trying to sound the alarm about different bills, different issues that affect parents nationwide. We are committed to doing everything we can to empower parents so that they can better protect their families. And you will see information on our social media pages, not just about Tennessee, where we're located, but covering a multitude of states when we see something that we feel like needs to be brought to attention. Also, currently, right now, there is a Supreme Court case going on about a charter school, a private charter school in the state of Oklahoma. So they're going to make a judgment based on if charter schools can be funded by the government if it's a private school. So we're watching that unfold. I'm actually going to be interviewing Linda Murphy next week, and we're going to be doing a deep dive. She's been on my show before. We're going to be talking about charter schools and private schools and religious schools in general, being able to utilize tax dollars and what that is going to look like for the whole U.S., because this is definitely going to be setting a precedence. But again, if you're not following Free Your Children on all of our social media pages, I encourage you to do so. That also helps us as well. Like, comment, and share. That bumps us up in the algorithm because, as many of you may know, we have been shadow banned. We've been censored, just as every other truth teller out there seems to experience on different platforms. But this really helps to get our information back up in the algorithm. And again, I want to thank Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you for being on. One last time, tell our listeners and followers where they can find your organization.
Yes, our website is ihcm.info, ihcm.info.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I love Missouri. I was in Missouri not long ago at a homeschool conference speaking. It was a wonderful opportunity. We have amazing friends in Missouri. We will be praying for the work that you're doing there, and we will be supporting all the work that you have coming up. And I will be sharing your information. And thank you for everything that you're doing to protect families.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So again, if you have not signed up to our newsletter, I encourage you to do that. The newsletter is free. That way you don't miss anything that we have going on. And I also want to leave you with this. Above all, love each other deeply because love covers a multitude of sins. 1 Peter 4:8. We love you here at Free Your Children, but remember, Jesus loves you so much more. God bless.